As you know, everything in DTC is going crazy right now. CACs are increasing, margins are being competed away. Brands that were flush with cash 2 years ago are razor thin margins right now. It's getting a lot harder in DTC. But if you have the money, the best place still to grow and to keep driving new customers is still going to be Meta and Google and probably TikTok Shop for 99% of all e-commerce brands. So how is it brands are still scaling when really the economic environment is probably the hardest it's ever been? Well, I'm going to share what those are in this video. Everyone is saying that you just need to launch more ads. And while that's possibly true, and for some situations that is true, but it doesn't take away that there are key fundamentals that all of these brands who are scaling really hard and really fast are doing. And that's what we're going to cover in this video. What are those core fundamentals? If you do those things, it'll all but guarantee you actually scaling your brand. If this is your first time watching me on this channel, my name is Ray Johnson. I've been doing this for 8 years with e-commerce brands, working brand side, as well as now on the agency side with my business I've been running for the last 7 years and my other business partners. We have gotten 23 brands to $1 million a month, many who started sub $100,000 a month. That's a 10x increase. So I've been around the block a few times, and every single one of those brands and every single one of those situations had these same core fundamentals that I want to teach you in this video. So we're just going to put on pause for a second that the answer can't be just more budget. The answer can't just be running more ads, because if you miss these fundamentals, there's no point in doing those anyways. And of the 23 brands we've gotten to $1 million a month, there's even more that we got to $500,000 a month, which is a 5x increase, being sub $100,000 a month. And there's even more of those who never scaled because they ignore these fundamentals and they thought the answer was just more ads, more budget, and it turned out they blew themselves up. Okay, secret number one that they don't tell you this, and frankly, no one's gonna tell you this online because most of the time they have something to sell you, and that is by focusing on ROAS, you're actually doing yourself a disservice and you're never gonna grow. Let me explain to you why that is. And I'm gonna explain to you, and I actually have a calculator I'm gonna walk you through to prove this point. But the big reason why is when you're focusing on front end ROAS, the problem with it is it becomes an artificial ceiling you put on yourself. And anytime you have a limitation, whether that's mentally, emotionally, or a target you set, what that means is you refuse to accept that there are other paths to get you where you want to get to. And I'm going to tell you right now, of the 23 brands we got to $1 million a month, every single one of them did not care about return on ad spend in the ad account. And I'm going to prove to you why. So here we have a real example of a brand, their real numbers right here. Okay, so this is a really great calculator we use to illustrate this point. So you have a brand whose goal is to make $700,000 and they want to spend $200,000 and they want a 3.5x return. And this brand has $70,000 in fixed costs. Their cost of goods is 29%, and they give about 100 grand worth of discounts, and that's their contribution profit, which is $126,000. But then their number of customers they acquired in that month was 12,000, and their 90-day LTV multiplier, which means the people who will keep buying from them over the next 90 days, is an additional $73,000 on top of that. So that's $73,000 you will realize over the next 90 days based off your cohorts. Now, I just want to pause here a second. Most brands, what they say is, I want like a 3.5 return on ad spend in the ad account. And that's great. And if you can do that at scale, that's even better. But the problem is the moment you put that limitation on yourself, you're actually not realizing there's a much easier way to play the game, but also you will never be able to scale beyond that point. And from a guy who's done this 23 times, every single one of those brands, once they broke that mold, they're able to make more money, more profit, and they're able to grow a lot faster. For example, I personally know brands who in 3 years have scaled to $60 million by ignoring in-platform ROAS. I know another brand that got to $80 million a year in their 3rd year by ignoring in-platform ROAS. There's much better ways to play the game nowadays. So this is the same brand. This is their forecast. This is what they want to do. But I'm going to challenge to you is that what if I can make you more profit? Because at the end of the day, all we really care about is either more profit, more market share, or acquiring more new customers. Because whoever is willing to acquire the most customers at the most expensive price is always going to win the game. So let's take that same forecast and let's say, for example, we aren't hitting 3.5 return, we're hitting 3.15. Well, At the same ad spend, at less return, what happens? Our contribution profit goes down, right? We're spending the same amount of money at less return, our profit goes down, and our 90-day cash flow also goes down. Makes sense, okay? So that's worse ROAS, same spend. Okay, but what if, for example, we have worse ROAS and 20% lower spend? And I illustrate this point because this is mathematically correct. What a lot of people do is when they see that their return goes down, what do they want to do? They want to pull back ad spend. And that is most of the time the wrong thing to do. It's human behavior. When I'm losing money or I feel like I'm making less money, what do I want to do? I want to hoard it and keep it from losing anymore, right? That's called the loss aversion, okay? I want to hoard it. But spending less dollars at a less return, I'm actually going negative in my contribution profit and negative in my 90-day LTV. So this illustrates the point that once ROAS goes down, the worst thing you can do is lower spend. Instead, there's a better thing to do. But let's say, for example, scenario 3 is let's say I'm getting even worse ROAS, but I decided to spend more. So instead of spending $210,000 or 168 because I lowered it, I'm going to increase spend when my ROAS is going down. So instead of a 3.5, I'm actually hitting a 3x. So I'm off a lot. I'm not hitting 3.5, which is my target, hitting 3. So what happens? My contribution profit actually is better than these two scenarios. So let's pause here for a second. What happened? At worse return, but same spend, my contribution profit is 54K. At worse ROAS and lowering spend actually has a double negative effect on my business. I go in the negative on contribution profit. But at worse ROAS, but deciding to spend more is actually better than these two scenarios altogether. And I'm going to prove to you that there's an even better scenario. Let's take scenario number 4. At worse ROAS, not a 3.5, not a 315, not a 310, not a 3x ROAS, a 2.95 ROAS. But 20% more spend, I'd be pulling more contribution profit than any of these 3 scenarios so far. And it's better off for me in 90 days in my cash flow as well. Well, marginally, okay? So even looking at this for a second, the point I'm trying to make here is looking at in-platform ROAS is gonna keep you trapped. Either one, it's gonna limit your success. Number 2, it's gonna make you reactionary where you're gonna pull back spend that actually creates negative cash flow scenarios. But a better scenario, the scenario that if you understand this and you really understand this and you really take this to heart and you action it, this is what makes brands 9-figure brands. This is why we're able to take brands and 10x them from $700,000 a month to $1 million a month in a 12-month period because they understand this one point, and that's why they're blowing past you. That is why they're growing faster. That's why they're still making more profit than you. For this one example. So let's say, for example, we have way worse ROAS. So not a 3.5, not a 315, not a 310, not a 3, not a 2.9, but a 2.6. Significantly worse ROAS. But we double the ad spend, so not 210, 420. What happens? I am making more contribution profit overall. I've also acquired way more new customers. And what happens? My 90-day LTV is over 40% greater than scenario number 1 is my forecast. Because what these brands do, and this is why if you get this, you will be a rock star, is they understand they're playing the future game where their cash flow is going to keep rolling. Imagine if you played this scenario for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. This snowball effect of this cash flow running down the road every 90 days creates a significant snowball effect. It's like compounded interest. And that's why these brands are able to grow so insanely fast because they understand this game. Because I just proved to you that focusing on ROAS it's good, but it's actually the worst scenario because you get into the trap of one, limiting your scale because you never hit target 100% of the time. I've been doing this for 7 years. We never hit target for every brand every single month, every single time. Like no one is that perfect. Instead, the reality is ROAS comes and goes. What a lot of people do is they keep the same ad spend at worse ROAS, contribution profit goes down. Or the worst thing you do at worse ROAS, they start lowering spend, which has a double negative effect on your business. But the smarter brands know how to model this out and they will start increasing spend and be able to accept a worse ROAS. And what happens? They actually end up making more contribution profit overall. Because there is a myth, and it's a myth that I'm going to debunk right now, in the e-commerce space. And that is, the more you spend, your return goes down by the same increment. That's not true. If you double your spend, your return is not going to also get cut in half. That's not true. It may go down marginally, but it's not going to go down to the same increment. And this right here is how we are able to scale brands so successfully. That's the biggest thing. If you get anything out of this video, if you get this one principle, you will make so much more money, because e-commerce businesses perform the best at scale. The more volume, the more efficient that they are. Because I explained in the beginning of the video, whoever acquires the most customers wins. And of all these scenarios, this one, it makes your efficiency better. You're able to get lower cost of goods sold, negotiate cheaper shipping rates. You're able to negotiate cheaper payment processing rates, which lowers your cost of goods and your cost of delivery. You make more contribution profit overall, and you make more cash flow in 90 days based off of the repeat buyer rate of your business. It is like the greatest scenario of all these scenarios. Secret number 2, structured testing cycles. Now, this isn't just creative for ads, this is creative for emails, this is creative for organic social, but the best brands I know, and the brands that we've gotten to $1 million a month, every single one of them, we had a very structured creative process. I'm going to share our creative process. I'm going to share, these are real screenshots on the back end of our creative process as well. But I just want you to see and understand, you can't get to $1 million a month by luck. You can't get there by being lucky and striking it rich. You also can't get there by organized chaos. You need to bring in some structure to make this happen. So for example, what we do personally in our team is we work off sprint cycles. So a sprint cycle, just really quickly, looks like this. This is an example of a sprint process. So let's say we have the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, okay? This is 1 week. Now you can do a sprint in 2 weeks. You can do a sprint in 1 week. I'm gonna use a 1 week example. On Monday, what you do is we set the theme. What's the theme of the sprint? And then we create a backlog. What's the backlog of the things we wanna test, okay? On Tuesday, what we then do is we then pick the things we want to make, okay? And then Wednesday through Thursday, we create, okay? And then Friday, we launch, plus we review the previous sprints, ads, and how they performed, right, from the previous week. Because that means we had 1 full week of them testing. If we launch ads on a Friday, we want those ads that we launched last Friday to have at least a full week worth, and then we review how they perform. That's an example of a sprint process. Now, what this essentially means is we have our entire team organized so that every single person has a responsibility. So we have our creative strategist, okay? Then we have our media buyer, then we have our visual creator, and then we have our project coordinator. And you can, depending on your team size, you can have one person sharing more than one role, but that's like our structure for our team. And so the creative strategist picks the theme for this next week. Everyone on the team, in light of that theme, creates a backlog of ideas based off of the previous Friday's review of what worked in the ads. Okay, then on Tuesday they meet and they pick what are the things that from the backlog we're going to create this week. Wednesday, Thursday, they create, and then Friday, they launch, and then they review the previous cycle. Now, you can make different permutations of this, but what this does is it creates structure, and it creates a working rhythm every single week that the team is focused on. Number 1, reviewing what's worked. Number 2, coming up with themes, which is a creative way, what I call creative tension, to hone in and focus you on this theme. Okay, and then it forces our team, everyone in the team, to come up with ideas and add it to a backlog. Then the next day, the entire team picks those ideas they're going to execute, and the team just starts working on executing and creating those ideas. And on Friday, they launch, and then they start the whole process over again with the review. Now, why is this important? This is important because if you don't have this, you're going to constantly be running around needing creative and not having it right when you need it. Because we have this rhythm with my team, like we're like a train, we just keep chugging along. And in this cycle, we can increase volume. We can increase volume by just adding more ideas and adding additional visual creator support, right? It can scale up, but because we have this rhythm. If you don't have that, and I've seen teams that don't have this, what happens is everyone on the team is just constantly running around. You always feel like you're at a disadvantage because you don't have enough creative. You often feel like that there's no strategic alignment with the creative that needs to be made. It often feels like a shotgun approach. Your team is randomly making things, or it feels like you're making making things, but you're actually not reviewing what's worked and you're not improving. This is a cycle of improvement, and that's why I'm such a believer in it. So for example, what we do is we have our creative strategists. What they do is they use, let me just click it by the way. This is, for example, our doc where we set our sprint themes. Okay, so what we do is in the sprint theme, we have links to all of the brands that we're working on, to their Dropbox folders, to the content calendar, which is a whole nother topic. We have content calendars for them. Okay, and then what we're doing is we then have a theme. So this is our creative strategist. She put the theme here. Here is the theme that we're trying to make for this next sprint cycle. So what this does is it helps the entire team to focus on, okay, we're going to focus on these bundle refreshes for this brand. Okay, we're going to make X number of variations, and this level of sophistication. Here's the mass desire. And so we're all in alignment on the focus for this week for that brand. Okay, then once we have that, we add these to our creative sprint backlog. So for example, this is our ClickUp folder where we have the backlog of the brands right here of all the different ads we come up with. Okay, and then we prioritize, we can't make everything, but let's pick and choose the ones we really want to make. And they add it to the sprint to do, which essentially is of all the things we want to make, here are the things we're agreeing to, we're going to make this week. And I didn't open it up, but we have subtasks here where like allocates who does what essentially all along the way. And then the sprint doing, that is essentially the things that they're going to do this week. So sprint to do means we have to do it. And now maybe we can't do it this week, maybe we'll do it next week. But doing is just things like I'm agreeing to, with my name next to it, I'm going to get this done this week. And then when it's done, they move it to done. Pretty simple. And then inside of the sprint doc, we have this. We essentially have, this is our brief, the campaign details that the project coordinator fills out. We have timelines, we have the hypothesis. If there's a link that we're using as a source of inspiration, like we got this idea from this place, they put that there so everyone on the team has the same frame of reference as they go about making the creative. They'll also outline what are the products we're gonna use or showcase in that particular creative, and then where are we gonna drive the traffic to. And then this is just the rest of the details on what kind of deliverables do we want from this one particular creative. So we want 1x1, 3 variations. We want 3 9x16, and we want 3 videos with the scroll. So essentially, this is just outlining the number of deliverables our visual designer has to create. And then we're outlining here what's the copy that goes inside of it. And then for our copywriters, what's the stage of awareness, what's the level of sophistication, and then how much copy do they need. And so the benefit of this is when we're making this process, it makes it very easy because we've decided who does what, who owns what. Everyone on the team clearly sees the description. They clearly see the hypothesis of it. So when we start creating it, and then at the end, which was that Friday right there, now what are we doing? We're just launching it. And if you ever want to see how we do our creative testing, I have a whole nother video that walks through our creative testing framework, and then we launch it. And then what happens? We start the whole process over again the next week. So that's our Monday through Friday in a 1-week creative sprint. And what happens? The next Monday, we come up with a new theme. It can be the same theme or a new one, okay? We start adding ideas to the backlog because if you look right here, the previous Friday right here, what do? We reviewed the previous 1 week's creative tests. That was in this week, okay? And so these learnings are reported this week, okay? These launches, the things that we made and launched this week are then reported here. And so part of this process is we have the previous week's learnings. So now it's informing the new ideas, that's what, added to the backlog. And this process works for email, it works for Google, works for TikTok, works for meta ads, works for organic. You have to have a structured process. Everything we do in our world of e-commerce all stems from getting attention. And in today's day and age, you get attention from content, like that's it. You must have this structure process now. It just happens that brands that work with us, like the 23 brands I told you about, we are the arm that's running their acquisition, running their email, running their Google. And so we just work this in this process. We take on the brute force of the creative strategy and just send it to them to approve. And typically their team takes on the brute force of the organic, but same process, and that's why it works. So you can imagine, if you will, with this structure, we can scale it up. We can do 100 ads in a month. We could do 20 ads in a month, and we can scale this up or down because it's the same rhythm, but now if we have more demands, we just increase the amount of ideas and content we need. All right, secret number 3, you must create habit forming addiction frameworks. Now, what are those? Now, why do you want to do this? Because when you buy a customer from ads, for example, at the end of the day, if you don't get them to buy again, your business is pretty much screwed. We've worked with a lot of brands that have a really terrible LTV of their customers, and those are the brands that are the hardest brands to manage and to keep profitable. The only caveat to that is if you work in a highly seasonal business and there's a lot of demand in a peak season, you can still make money, but all of your margins can be competed away eventually. If you're striking it really big right now, I can promise you with 100% it's not going to last. For example, I like to tell the story. We had a brand that they launched a really interesting product in a space that didn't really have that product. And in 14 months, they got to $15 million. Really, really fast scale. But the problem was their margin got competed away. They didn't have any repeat purchase because it was like a one-time byproduct. All the other brands started noticing, they started ripping off their products, and all their margin got competed away to nearly zero, and they went out of business. And so the point I'm trying to make here is if you don't have some way of forming an addiction framework where people are addicted to come back to you again and again, you are in big trouble. So what are those things? You can create addiction in this habit forming framework in a few different ways. So at the end of the day, the goal that we have is this. Our goal is LTV, lifetime value. How can we get people to buy from us again and again? That is the goal. There's many ways to accomplish this goal. I'm going to outline some of those ways. I'm also going to outline some of my favorite strategies of how we do this. But that's the goal, LTV or bust. And real quick, if you have a one product store that isn't a product that's a consumable, you're freaking screwed. If you don't figure this out, you're gonna go out of business, guaranteed. This framework is also training customers to stay engaged. And the whole reason why you wanna create a addiction forming framework is by training your customers, and there's many ways to do this, that they need to pay attention to keep giving their wallet to you. Listen, we're in business for the fight of our lives. We're in business to make money and make a profit, okay? I have complete 100% ethical okayness with creating addiction-forming habits with people because it's not immoral, but I'm trying to fight for their dollars because I'm trying to run a profitable business here. And it just so happens that these products are also really good and they like it. So I'm not tricking them. They're products that they want anyways. I'm just training them to pay attention. All right, so if that's the goal, what are the things that create people to come back and buy again? In my experience, LTV is caused by this. Number one, if you have a consumable. If you have a consumable, that's really easy. For example, these are my favorite energy drinks. I literally get them every single month, even though I probably shouldn't, but they are quite healthy for you actually. Like I love those things. I consume it. I have to buy it again. The other thing is going to be new. New products, new offers, you have to launch something new. The other thing is going to be activations. So you can do really cool things. You can do some really cool strategies that create activations. So those are things like collaborations. Those are things like exclusive limited edition, kind of like new launches. Those are things like loyalty reward programs. There's things you can do that create what I call marketing activations that get people's attention again and have them buy again. You can get LTV via like social constructs. What are those? Those are, for example, where people see that product being worn by so many different people, or they see other people wearing new stuff from that same brand. And through just sheer seeing what they have and modeling that, it will cause them to want to come back. That's why social proof is a big deal. It really is a big deal and it really does work because they can see another person wearing it and they like them, they identify with them, they want to be like them, and that can cause them to want to buy too. And like activations, you can also do it through cleverness. So those are things like comedy. Those are things like specific marketing campaigns, well-timed email and SMS, because you can do all these things through many different platforms. You can use email to get people to come back. You can do SMS. You can do organic. In my opinion, this matters less to increase LTV as this. This matters way more because these are just channels, but you have to use these things to get people to come back and buy again. Some of my favorite strategies are these. Because remember, we're trying to create addicting forming frameworks. How can we create a habit of them to buy from us? So the first one is what I like to call UGC on autopilot. Now, we use this internally mainly for the point of to get content all the time, but this works really well specifically when it comes to social constructs. Creating want because people see other people talking about it and posting about it. So how does this work? Is let's say, for example, this is your website, okay? Someone buys from you, so this is the thank you page, someone buys, great. What happens is we will set up an email automation that's sent to them probably 7 days after they get it. It's easy in Klaviyo. You can have an activation where once the product has arrived, because that's notified from the shipping carrier, that they get an email. So it's 7 days after what they get an email. Okay, this is an email. What does that email say? The email says the subject line is your pending refund. It has with the highest open rate of any email automation that we ever run, because who is not going to open that email? But it says your pending refund. But inside the email, it has 3 different ways they can earn a partial refund. And typically we do things like for $1, post a picture and tag us. If you want like a $3 refund, do a video and tag us. Like if you want like a $5 refund, then you can post like a video review. And I'm kind of making this up at the point, but these are things that often work. And also tag us. Now, what this does is, number one, it creates content for you to run. Number two, what this does is it also creates a social construct where people are seeing other people, potentially their friends, posting about this product, especially after they're already a customer. And they're like, man, they're talking about it. They had a great experience. I need to buy this again, or I want to buy this product. Now, it's important to note that I didn't say earlier, we typically do this for first-time customers. You can change this. This is just a flow. You can change this towards like second-time customers, or you can even randomize it as well. Klaviyo has that capability to where you can randomize who gets this flow, and you can do whatever you want, frankly, because Klaviyo has the ability to do that automation. But this works really well because we're trying to increase LTV. That's a really great strategy. And also, if you want to take it to another degree, then you can reach out to those people if they do, especially number 5. You can say, hey, can we just whitelist from this to your account as well? And that just like really adds steroids to all this. That's number 1. All right. Number 2, this is another great strategy, is going to be what I call reply campaigns. Now, what are reply campaigns? Reply campaigns are a type of email campaign where the call to action is for someone to reply to the email. This has many benefits. The first benefit of doing a reply campaign is it actually increases your deliverability. A lot of brands are plagued with their emails going into the spam inbox of people. And what that does, that lowers your open rates, which lowers your number of clicks, which then lowers your purchase rate. What this does is this sends really positive signals to email carriers that people want to hear from you because people are replying, you're actually having conversations via email. But the other benefit of this, why I like it, is training your customers to pay attention to your emails. And so we like to run reply campaigns. Now, there's many ways you can do this. Some of my favorite is we will send an email. So here's an email again. Okay. We're sending an email, and to that email list, we'll say, hey, for the next 1 hour, anyone who replies to this email will get this free thing or this discount, you name it. Okay. So what this does is you have like a mass amount of people replying, and this is a bit of a logistics. You have to have customer service pay attention to this. So you're increasing your deliverability, but then also if you do this on a regular basis, you will train your customers to pay attention. We've had brands where, for example, they had some products show up that were like slightly like scratch and dent, like 30 products, and they'll whip up a quick plain text email that says, hey, anyone who wants these scratch and dents, I would give it to you for like 50% off. Just reply, let us know with your address. And they do that, but they do that stuff all the time. And so what happens is they only send that email to who? Their customers. They only send it to people who have bought 2 times plus, or that haven't bought in like 60 days or 100 days. And they'll use it kind of like a re-engagement campaign for their customers to get those people coming back. Because remember, we are trying to create habit-forming frameworks for your customers. One way to do that is if you train them that every time Ray sends them an email, they better pay attention because he's always doing fun stuff in the email that if you reply to this, he'll do this. Really important stuff, but also has a huge benefit for you to increase your deliverability. The next one that works really good, and I actually got this from my subscriber brands, is to auto-subscribe people. Now, this is something that you can do, and it is legal, you can do this. You just have to be very clear that people are subscribing, but there are some brands out there that the only way to buy their product is that when you buy it, you're opting into a subscription. And then you can cancel whenever you want. That's the opt-out. But those people are able to dramatically ramp up their new subscribers by doing this. Again, we're trying to create habit-forming frameworks. One way to do that is to get people to subscribe to you if you're a CPG brand. Now, like I said, it used to be very clear that saying, by buying this, you're subscribing to a 28-day subscription. You can literally cancel anytime. As soon as you get the product, you can cancel. Up to you, but that's the only way that you can buy this product. You can do that. That is actually very legal, and we do have some brands that do that, but they also have like 20,000 subscribers. Like it's ramping up like crazy. Okay. And then the last one is going to use the standard automations that we like to do. Like we have these kinds of flows. We have win-back flows. Okay. We have repurchase flows. We have re-engagement flows, and many others. You can do these for email, SMS, and push. But flows, I put this number 4 because of all the things I mentioned, and even launching new products is more important than this. These are important to stay top of mind, but just some of these other strategies I see work exceptionally well to create those habit forming frameworks. And one of the best things you can do, just to circle back around, like launch new stuff on a regular basis. Like I tell brands at a minimum, you should be launching new stuff every quarter at a minimum. This trains your customers to pay attention. It gives them a reason to pay attention. And maybe that new thing is a new product. Maybe it's just a collaboration, and that's an activation. But these are the things you have to do to keep top of mind. Because listen, variety is the spice of life. And if you don't give people a reason to pay attention to you, they won't. Trust me, they don't care about you that much. So you have to work really hard to get them to pay attention to you. And of all the 23 brands that we've gotten to $1 million a month, we were doing things like this and these specific strategies to get people to come back to keep their LTVs really high. Secret number 4, strategy flywheels that make you anti-fragile. I'm really big on creating a business model that makes it to where it's unsinkable, or in this case, we're going to call it anti-fragile. And right now, with how hard everything is, it's more important than ever that you're creating a business that is anti-fragile. Now, why is this important? Because as margins are being competed away to near zero for a lot of brands, if you don't have something that creates momentum for you, you're kind of stuck. And so that's why I like to call strategy flywheels. A strategy flywheel is actually coined by Jim Collins in the book Good to Great. And he says the things that made companies from okay companies to amazing companies is because they had a strategy overarching or interlocking ones like the gears of a clock, that the more you turn them, it creates more momentum, it creates a bigger moat, and it makes it harder for people to compete with you or even catch up to you. And so he uses an example of a wheel. So let's say you have a wheel. So you have these concentric circles that the more you do these specific actions, the more the wheel will spin and create that momentum. So there's a few of these that I'm seeing work exceptionally well right now, that for the brands who put in the work to create those things, I'm telling you, people will not be able to compete with them. For example, what are some of these strategy flywheels? Well, the first one is the brands that I know that created a community have such a massive moat, competitors can't compete with them. For example, if you have a community of 50,000 customers, because every time someone buys, you invite them to your community, and you do some of the things I'm going to teach you in this video, you can't compete with them as a competitor, because anytime they want, they can reach 50,000 people to, number one, get feedback on the next product to launch, send it to them who launched a product, to get content from them, to have them go and comment on a post and on an ad to social proof it. You can't compete with that. And so some of the things I'm seeing working for our brands, and I'm reminded of a brand we worked with that does 40 million a year. And they said on more than one occasion, their community they built of customers is their number one most profitable business asset they've ever made. Because like I said, whenever they want, if they need content, they can send it to them. When they launch a product, they give it to them first. When they need social proof on an ad or a post, they ask their community to do it. And it's just like the biggest moat, okay? So ways to do this. Number one is when someone buys from you. So let's say someone purchases on the thank you page. When someone buys from you, what you want to do is invite them to a community. Now, that community, I've debated this a lot. I've talked to many different brands. It can be in a Facebook group. It can be on Discord. It can be on WhatsApp. Like, just go where your customers are. And actually, I'm going to go back real quick. What you should do is when someone buys, you should have what's called a post-purchase survey. Okay, right now, the moment you were done watching this video, have a post-purchase survey. I like to use a platform called No to do this, but you should ask them the question, where do you like to hang out in a community? Is it school? Is it WAP? Is it Facebook groups? Is it WhatsApp? Is it Telegram? Is it Discord? Ask them. And that'll give you a really good pulse of your customers. Where do they hang out? And then you can make an informed decision and host a community there. And then if there's like two who are really top, maybe you do one on both. Then once you do that, you can change the thank you page and then invite people to your community. You can literally have this on the thank you page. You can customize your thank you page. It can be an email, it can be an SMS, I don't care. But invite them to your community, because once they're there, you can do these really cool things. So what are these things? Number one, you can use them as focus groups to inform your next products, your next product launches, to get feedback from them, to get what are the best irresistible acquisition offers. You can also use it to get content. We need content for emails and for ads and organic and all those other things. You can use it to get content. You can also find people to whitelist in there. And I'll even venture to say some of them perform better than the people who are professional we have to pay a retainer to do that with. Number 4, they can be brand ambassadors. Brand ambassadors. So you can use them to say, hey, would you want a referral code? And I'll give you an affiliate kickback. You could do that. You can use it, like I mentioned earlier, and I love this strategy. When you launch an ad that's showing some early success, we've had brands where they'll say, hey, anyone who goes and comments on this post, they don't call an ad, but on this post, we're going to pick one lucky winner to give you a free pre-workout. But you get 100, 200, or 1,000 people commenting on that post that then you turn into an ad, right? And then it just makes you $5 million, okay? So community, without a doubt, is one of the biggest moats you have, but especially as, here's the big part too, is it's a really great diversification. So for example, email deliverability. If you're like sub 30% open rates, you have a deliverability problem. And so that means if you send an email to 100,000 people, 30% on average are going to open, okay? But if you have a group, the chances of you getting more people to everyone to see it is significantly higher. And you're not limited to deliverability issues when you own the group either, because it's just a message. So it's another extra way to get people. All right, another strategy flywheel. And this one I learned from a buddy of ours who taught in our dojo group is he has an affiliate army. Doesn't have to only be on YouTube, but this is just a really great strategy that for the last 3 years, he's been very intentional investing heavily into YouTubers to give them products, to get reviews from them. So what happened was, is by them being via YouTube, his brand makes $80,000 to $100,000 a month, all from YouTube backlinks, because he's worked on 100+ YouTube creators to get them to review their products and for those backlinks. And so many of them, if he has a good relationship, he'll just ongoing make them an affiliate where they include that link in their videos. And so for this guy, it makes his brand really tough to compete with when $100,000 a month comes from new customers that he doesn't have to spend ads on, that he doesn't have to send an email script his deliverability on, that he can just rely on. Plus it increases his site ranking, his DR ranking as well for SEO. So he's just been very intentional and it crushes. He's not the only one. We have brands that do more than that from this. But this is a flywheel that if you invested now, and so what he does was he created a community of these YouTubers and he'll incentivize them to make videos with it. But also he'll ask them, hey, who else is a YouTuber that I should send my product to? What are some other content we should make? Do you want to do a collaboration? And so it's this flywheel where he's gotten a team, an army of these people that then they just create making content. He keeps getting more backlinks. And so if Meta has a bad day or his ad account gets banned or Google all of a sudden starts really sucking or TikTok shop doesn't perform any well, he still has 6 figures a month coming in just from these YouTube affiliates that he's been purposely investing in this strategy for over 3 years. All right, and very similar to the first two, this is one I made a video about this a while ago, and that is a giveaway strategy, a giveaway flywheel. What is this? So we have brands that do this. I'm not talking about a giveaway business model. A giveaway flywheel is where a brand, they will run a giveaway every single month. And how you enter into that giveaway is you have to post a picture and you have to tag them, tell a story, make a video. And anyone who does, they'll randomly be chosen to win this really cool giveaway. What that does is it does 3 really cool things. Number 1, you're getting new customer generated content. Take it, run to the bank. Number 2 is you're getting more people talking about it. So more free eyeballs, more free awareness. Cool. Check that off the list. And then number 3, what you're getting is you're getting people who you can see who performs so you can use them to make more content, or you can also then just whitelist their account to run ads from. So it's a really simple strategy that really like low dollar amount investment altogether. But our brands that do that are marginally way more profitable than our brands who aren't right now. Because again, these are strategies that when you do them, the more you do them, the bigger the momentum builds, and it's really freaking hard to compete against them. And I can say that because in these different strategies, we actually have brands in the same exact space. One's doing it, one who isn't, and the ones who are doing this are significantly more profitable. And frankly, it's a lot easier to run their marketing because they're doing this, and things perform better too. All right, secret number 5, financial models for scale. Now, this is going to get very nerdy very fast because of all of the 23 brands, every single one that scaled, they had really solid financial models. Now, what is that? A financial model is a few things. And first of all, let's talk about why it's important. It doesn't matter how much attention you get. Even if you went viral, that success is very short-lived. We are trying to build brands that we can build and probably sell or can generate and fund our lifestyle. And things that go viral like a flash in the pan, but things where you build a financial model around it, that is really the underpinning of all of these that's going to make you successful. Because if you have anywhere in your model something bad that's broken, it's going to screw you. Like if your fixed costs are too high, it's going to screw you. If your cost of goods sold are too low, it's probably going to screw you. If you don't have a big enough LTV, it's probably going to screw you. Each one of these are going to be significant bottlenecks to making your brand grow. Now, I mentioned this earlier when I showed you in the secret number 1 about how brands are able to scale, spend more money than others. And this is really what it comes down to. So for example, the brands that we work with, we completely model out all of their months, their new customer revenue. We model their entire business out to see, even down here, what's their net margins, what's their new customer AOV, new customer CPA, all those things. How much contribution per new customer are they getting? But the point here I want to make here for you specifically is we want to get to this point right here. This is what I'm talking about, financial models of scale. This brand is such a freaking cash cow for this number right here. Is that this is how much it cost them to acquire a new customer at the moment over the past 12 months. But this is how much over 90 days they make from new customers. So here, it's costing them in these months, for example, $142 at most to acquire a new customer. But in 90 days, just 90 days, this is how much they're making from that new customer, right? It's like an 83% revenue uplift. And this brand, as an example, they have such an insane cash cow business, and that's just 90 days. I'm not looking at 180 days or 12 months, for example. In this brand could scale like crazy and be insanely profitable. And this is what I mean by financial models to scale, is all of our brands, every single one of them, that scaled to $1 million a month, and we've done 23 of them, okay? Every single one of them, we look at this. We don't care about in-platform ROAS as much. We care more about how much profit we make in contribution profit. But then number 2, what's my 90-day payback on those people? Because if I can break even on the first sale, for example, like this shows you in months when you're going to get your money back, for example. And so, for example, this 90-day CAC, this shows you how much extra margin you're going to make off your first sale. And so what we're doing here is we're asking ourselves, can we afford to acquire a customer at break even and then make our money back after day 30 or make our money back after day 90? And every brand that got to $1 million a month thinks like this. It doesn't mean we do it, but we're able to think like this and at different points in the year make these decisions. For example, we have a fashion brand right now where we know when they're in season and when they're out of season. And so what that does is when they are out of season, it gives us the flexibility to keep acquiring customers even at a more expensive CAC, because we know when we're going to get paid from that over the next 30, 60, 90 days, and we know when that money is going to come back. And so this is what I mean. So you can see right here, this brand, this is like their cohort, for example, the new customers, their first order. And this is the incremental revenue lift after month 0, month 1, month 2, month 3. And we create these, what I call revenue snowballs. I'll write that down for you. Revenue snowballs, where once you have a good revenue model, you can incrementally over 12 months get more aggressive month after month after month, because each month you get more aggressive, acquire more new customers. What happens? Your returning revenue is following. So let's say, for example, you have this line right here, okay? This line represents all of your sales. And what we're gonna do is this represents returning customers, okay? This represents our returning customers. But this represents our ad spend. And because we know each month we're getting more aggressive, actually, let me do this. This represents new customers, okay? Red represents new customers, and this represents ad spend. What this does, at the beginning, as we see more new customers coming, we can actually get more aggressive. And as long as returning customer, our revenue model keeps increasing, we can actually start outpacing all of this, spend more as long as new and returning customers goes up, and we can afford to acquire customers more expensive, outbidding competition, and then thus increasing that snowball altogether. Because if you know anything like a snowball, you roll it down a hill, what happens? It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And these brands, this is actually the big strategy, what happens is when it comes time for them to sell, they will pull back the ad spend and then run off the returning customer revenue to make the business look insanely profitable for ourselves. And so that's what I mean by your revenue model must be clear. So all of our brands that have this kind of thinking, they've gotten to $1 million a month. Number one is that they know their numbers perfectly. So for example, they know their break-even CAC, okay? They also know their model, their 90-day LTV, so they can spend into it if they want to. So it's really 30, 60, 90, to be honest with you. We know our 30, 60, 90 LTV. They know their contribution profit point. At what point and what's the amount of contribution profit they need to break even? So for example, if let's say your fixed overheads is 100K. That's really expensive, okay? 100K. So what that means is just to break even, and that includes many different things inside that. I'll make another video if you want to on this. But if your 100K is your break even, just to cover your fixed overheads, that means your contribution profit needs to be at least 100K to pay all those things. Now, your gross is gonna make more because contribution profit is gross revenue minus cost of goods sold or cost of delivery, minus marketing spend, okay, minus your payment processor fees, your shipping, okay, all the things for cost of delivery, and that's your contribution profit. And then you have all the stuff right here, which is your fixed overheads, which includes like salaries, warehouse, and things like that. That's why they understand what is the amount of contribution profit I must need to break even. And so anything above that is obviously going to be profit above that point. The other thing that they do is they try to keep their costs at 10%. They're 10% fixed costs. They try to keep their company as lean as humanly possible. And what this does is it helps them to maintain one of the biggest things they can control, and that is how much bloat that they have. And so all of our brands that got to $1 million a month, that's a number that their CFO really helped them zoom in on and focus on, because e-commerce businesses are amazing at scale. They're terrible when you're not at scale. They're actually like cash nightmares. But if you can hold on, you can get that thing to scale and keep it lean. They're literally money printing machines if you can get to that point. And those are the 5 secrets that have gotten every single one of our brands that we worked with to $1 million a month. And if you follow these 5 correctly, I have no doubt in my mind, you are going to be so much more successful and profitable than you are now, because I've literally done it 23 times. It's taken me over 7 years to see this and to work with that many brands. But even over 7 years, when the market's changed so much, even this is proven to be true. So with everything I've given you, you really have 2 options. Number 1, you can do it yourself, figure it out for yourself. Or number 2, you can hire my agency if you're doing over $50,000 a month, and you can have my team do it for you if you don't want to learn it yourself. If you want one of those other options, click the link in my description. I have a calendar link to schedule a call with me. Also have the link to join our mentorship group. Both of those are at your disposal. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next series of videos where I keep talking about these anti-fragile funnels.